and Shannon will go over the data management piece of how this all works. So that's how we've structured today. And on the next slide, let's start with the background and proceeding. So we had an input session last year, or September of 2014 actually, when there was some conversation on students that completed the community college's adult high school program and counting those students in some way, shape, or form. So, so as we continued this process, talking about how we might do that, we brought in different people from the agency and different individuals from school districts to discuss the best way of doing that. So we came up with a plan and presented it to the State Board of Education, and it was approved in September. So the policy is in the dropouts category, and the title of GCSQ 000 is Dropout Exit Conference and Referral Process. So the policy was changed effective September 3rd of this year. And prior to that, and this is what's important that, or you will want to remember as we go through today, the changes that occurred in September do not affect what happened before September regarding the adult high school piece. Next slide, please. And in this, we'll talk a little bit more about GCSQ, and then we'll go on to GCSC 039. So what GCSQ 000, the revisions require building or request that when building level school administrators determine that a student plans to drop out of school, the administrator or his or her designee is asked to do an exit conference with the student and their parents. Now, the discussion in that exit conference should center around why the student has decided to drop out of school and the impact of doing so. And then the policy requires that districts or administrators provide information on other education options for students. And those, one of the options would be the adult high school program with the community college, but there are many other options as well. And the options that you share with the student would be based on the student's interest and the best avenue for that student to take, if indeed the student has absolutely decided they're going to be leaving school and has shared that information with you. So after repeated intervention efforts, school personnel have done, and the student still wants to drop out of school, then school districts should develop a plan or guide that student to an actual educational service and document that. And it should be an appropriate service for or program for that student. And that decision might be made with the student or have through conversations with the student. Next slide, please, ma'am. So after the student has received some referrals or a referral, the district should document that referral, and the documentation should include the name, the date of birth, and the grade, and the address and telephone number of the student or contact information. And that's important because at some point you need to follow up within 6 weeks to make sure that that student has indeed gone that route of the referral, or if not, then why not? The documentation should include the parent's name or guardian's name, address, and telephone number in case the student is no longer living with their parent, the date the student is withdrawing from school, any course credits from the transcript, and then any assessment data as applicable, and identification of appropriate educational services with the contact information for that educational service, so the student knows where to go or what direction they need to be taking next. And as I mentioned, if after the end of 6 weeks, it is upon the onus is on the school system to follow up with that referral, that agency, that program, wherever the district has referred that student to. The district should then follow up with that agency or program to ensure that student has made contact or has now enrolled or applied for services with that agency. Okay, and I will slow down just a little bit. I do have that tendency to talk really, really fast, so thank you for reminding me that I need to slow down just a tad bit. Now, for GCSQ, one of the major revisions here is this piece is number 4. Prior to this revision, students completing the GED or the Adult Basic Education Program or the Adult High School Program were all counted as dropouts, or W2s. But when this policy was revised in September, students withdrawing from high school and enrolling in an adult high school program would no longer be coded as W2s. They're going to be coded as W2T. And that T is not for transfer. It is for transition. Those students are transitioning from one high school setting to another high school setting that are in two different org units, and they are really different programs. So in order for a student to be coded as a W2T, the district must verify that the student has actually enrolled in an adult high school program. Now, there's the potential for a lot of students to be interested in this possibility. So the State Board of Education, before approving this policy revision, they wanted to know how many students were currently enrolled in an adult high school program, minor students that is. So for the 2013-14 year, which is the year that we have the most recent data for, there were 746 minor students, 16 and 17-year-olds, in adult high school programs at community colleges across the state. That same year, 186 students graduated from an adult high school program, minor students graduated from an adult high school program in North Carolina. So the state board is going to be looking at if that number increases exponentially or if it sort of maintains. And then they're going to want to also know where these students are graduating or where they are enrolling in which adult high school programs and community colleges across the state. Now, the community college system is also going to be monitoring this data because, as you know, community colleges are not staffed as public schools are. So it's important that we only guide students to adult high school programs for whom this program is the best fit. And yes, indeed, there are 16 and 17-year-olds that the traditional high school setting is not working for them. But this community college adult high school program, very well may be the best fit for this student. But that's a decision that must be reached very, very carefully. All right, so there's a question.
Right, so the question is, what is the documentation for a student who just dropped out? Very few of our dropouts give warning of their dropout, and many we are unable to find or reach after dropping out.
Okay, so the document. So what we suggest is, this is, and as you know, as schools know, sometimes kids do just leave. However, one of the things we suggest is there are warning signs that a student may be getting ready to drop out of school. We strongly suggest that schools use the at-risk report in PowerSchool, which provides some indicators of students who may be on the ledge, so to speak. They may have a significant number of absences. So what we suggest is that there be interventions before a student actually decides to leave school, and there are warning signs. So that is what we suggest is you run these reports, review this at-risk report, and not only that one, but also the diploma assessment report, which provides information on how students are progressing towards graduation. Those provide your warning signs, and that provides you the information that you need to know which students you should be targeting. And once you know the students that are on, that may be potential at risk or maybe thinking about leaving school, you can start to do some interventions for those students, and they're on your radar screen. One of the other things that dropout prevention specialists will tell you is that students need a significant relationship with an appropriate adult in the school at some point during the day. These are the warning signs. These are the telltales. And once we know who the students are, we develop an intervention plan. We have that student on someone in the school's radar screen.
Next question is, what can LEAs do to confirm the enrollment if we do not have access to their enrollment data?
Confirm enrollment with the community college. Okay, so then that is because it's going to require the schools and the community colleges, and we're going to get to some of these things later on in the PowerPoint when we speak to the agreement of affiliation. You have to have a conversation with your local community college, or the community college that you're going to be working with, or you're going to be asking about students that may be going, your students that may be going to those colleges, so that at some point you may receive a report from them of the 16 and 17-year-olds that are enrolling in your program. So that is going to require a conversation between the school district and the community college. And so if we could hold on those questions for just a minute, I think we'll be answering them as we go through the PowerPoint. But if indeed we don't, please, we will get to your questions.
We will also keep these questions and pull them off the system and send them to the people who can't answer them and get them back out to everyone who's on the webinar. So I want you to be sure we will do that.
And so this slide, my colleague Faye Brown from Accountability Services is going to talk about.
Okay, good morning again. GCSC 039 is currently the cohort graduation rate policy. And that policy states that North Carolina currently reports out the 4-year and 5-year cohort graduation rates as defined by the National Governors Association. The definition establishes a school-based cohort at the beginning of the 9th grade, which is modified if students transfer to another school or if the students are enrolled in another school. At the end of the 4th year or the 5th year, the percent of students in the cohort who complete the requirements of graduation are reported in the school's cohort graduation rate. As specified in the cohort, students are designated as graduates have met the same requirements for a standard diploma. This policy also states that any student who receives a standard diploma awarded in collaboration with the community college and signed by a local superintendent shall be considered a high school graduate and shall be included in the school's 4-year and 5-year cohort graduation rate as appropriate.
All right, and Dropout Reporting in PowerSchool, Ken Gaddis is on the line and will be speaking to this piece of the presentation.
Hold on one second. Let me see if I can open Ken up here. I do not see Ken online.
All righty then. In that case, we'll wait Ken's piece. Okay, so in Dropout Reporting in PowerSchool, school systems are required to report their dropout data on all dropouts in grades 1 and higher to the Department of Public Instruction. And LEAs are encouraged to begin researching potential dropouts during the year they leave school. So some districts have a recovery, dropout and recovery type of program, and so every effort should be made to keep the kids in school if at all possible. And again, this speaks back to the at-risk report that is in PowerSchool and allows you to look at students that are the attendance, behavior, and course credit or course failure are indicators, the 3 primary indicators of students that may be potentially at risk of dropping out. And PowerSchool, the at-risk report allows you to look at all those data for segments of students, or you can look at any one piece of that data if you would like. For segments of students, groups of students, you can do it by grade level, by course, by gender even if you'd like. And you might want to look at all students who have a D and a core course, or so that wonderful report in PowerSchool does provide you a lot of data that will allow you to sort of tap these kids before they actually leave school and provide some intervention. Next slide, please. And the process for investigating and reporting dropouts is detailed in the quick reference document, and the link is here, which we will leave in this PowerPoint, and you may reference it at any time you like. So, some of the questions that we anticipated you might have And I should mention as well that we've had this webinar with dropout prevention and graduation coaches earlier. Questions that we thought that they would be interested in, and you as well as data managers would like to have the same information. So when is it appropriate to code a student a W2T? So students who leave school and enroll in an adult high school program may be coded as W2T if the local education agency has written verification that the student has officially enrolled in the program. Now that verification may look differently from community college to community colleges. Community colleges and in many respects, local community colleges operate as local school districts. There is quite a bit of autonomy, so that documentation or the verification may look differently from campus to campus, but it should be signed by a community college administrator. And the next question, should there be an agreement of affiliation between the local district and the community college for this process? Absolutely, it is required. You cannot code a student as a W2T without that agreement of affiliation. And at any time, the Department of Public Instruction or the State Board of Education may ask to see your agreement. And if you don't have one, we do have a copy of a standard one that the community colleges have developed, and it can be revised. It is a Word document, so you can change it, shift it, make it work for you and the community college that you're working with. So I'll be happy to email you a copy of that sample if you would like to have one. Will W2T students be allowed to graduate before the scheduled cohort graduation date? And I'm going to ask my colleague, Faye, to answer that one. The expert, and there are other experts in the room as well on graduation here. So Faye has been asked to respond to this.
Okay. Yes, students completing the community college adult high school program and earning the diploma prior to that scheduled graduation year for his or her cohort will be counted in the graduation for the year that that cohort is due. The student will be transitioned from W2T status to a W6.
All right. So how long can a student be in W2T status? Well, with written documentation and enrollment, a verification by term. So this is something that we have not spoken to yet. So for every semester or every quarter, whichever that community college uses, the district or the school must verify enrollment for any student that is a W2T. So because continuous enrollment is required in order to use the W2T status. And they can stay in W2T status with that continuous enrollment until June 30 of the year of their 5-year cohort graduation. So, and that's a bit of a tongue twister, years in there a lot, but so they can stay in that W2T status until their scheduled date of their, or June 30 of that 5-year cohort graduation year. However, the school district must obtain written verification of enrollment from the community college on a quarterly or semester basis, and verification must be placed in the student's record. And the year the student is scheduled to graduate, say?
The year the student's cohort is scheduled to graduate, the code will be changed to W6 if the student has completed the adult high school program and received a high school diploma signed by the community college and the district administrators. Students that are not completing the program by June 30th of the 5-year cohort year must be coded as a W2.
Okay, so how will the Department of Public Instruction verify that a student is officially enrolled in a adult high school program? Well, the LEA is required to do the verification and to secure the written documentation of the student's enrollment in the adult high school program prior to assigning the W2T code. Enrollment documentation should be signed by the community college administrator. And again, at any time, the Department of Public Instruction or the State Board of Education may request submission of enrollment evidence for any student coded as W2T. And I will say that it is very likely that the State Board will request to request the Department of Public Instruction to do some spot checks from particularly for the 15-16 school year, and maybe even for the 16-17 school year as well. So, can verification of enrollment be uploaded in PowerSchool? And my good friend, LaDanza has become my very good friend throughout this process. She's going to answer this one.
The verification can be uploaded into PowerSchool, but each LEA has to monitor their bandwidth, because you may not have enough bandwidth to upload every single student into the system. So I'm suggesting maybe keep a copy in each student's CUNE folder instead of uploading it onto PowerSchool.
LaDanza, how is this uploaded? Through the attachments documentation that's available on PowerSchool?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so what type of documentation is required to verify enrollment in the adult high school? Okay, again, this documentation may look differently from community college to community college. So our suggestion would be that you work with that local community college. And the other thing to take into consideration is for many of the community colleges, they have very small staffs. So much like many of us, I guess, fewer people doing more work, but these are the times in which we live. However, so that verification may look differently, but work with your community college to design something that works for both of you. However, the verification must be signed by an administrator from the community college. When should W2T be changed to W6? It's a graduate or included in the W2 Dropout Calculation. So Faye or Ozella, maybe one or both of you would want to speak to that. I'm not sure.
Okay. The student's coded as W2T should be transitioned to the W6, as we stated earlier, upon the completion of the adult high school program. And once that diploma is issued by the community college and local agency, if that occurs on or before June 30th of the year, the student's 5-year cohort is scheduled to graduate. If the W2T student does not maintain continuous enrollment in the program, exit or does not complete the program requirements by June 30th of the 5-year cohort graduation year, the student must be transitioned to the W2 and counted as a dropout for that reporting year.
Anything you need to add? Okay. So, will the student's historical grades be entered in PowerSchool? Will the student's historical grades be entered in PowerSchool?
No. The community college will keep their own grades, and we will not put those grades inside of PowerSchool. You're going to take the grades, evaluate, and then based on that, give the student their diploma.
Can a student leave the adult high school program, re-enter, and manage W2T status? No. Continuous enrollment in the adult high school program is required for W2T coding. Should a student coded as W2T exit the program prior to graduating, that student will be transitioned to W2 and included in the dropout calculation for that reporting year. Continuous enrollment is defined as enrollment in the fall and the spring semesters. So who is responsible for monitoring the progress and status of students coded as W2T? The LEA has sole responsibility for accuracy in coding students in this process and all other student accounting processes. And at any time, again, the State Board of Education or the Department of Public Instruction may request submission of enrollment documentation from the LEA. So how does the State Board of Education and the Department of Public Instruction verify that a student has completed an adult high school program? Faye, would you speak to that one, please?
Okay, we expect that the LEA, in collaboration with the community college, should verify the completion of the adult high school program requirements as stipulated in the agreement of affiliation signed by the officials from both the local school district and the community college. At any time, though, the State Board of Education or the department may request submission of the documentation from the LEA.
And will the W2T student show up on the dropout candidate report? And this was a Ken question, and I'm not sure if he's online yet or not, but the answer is yes. Students who enter the adult high school program and are coded as W2T will be listed on the potential dropout match report, and school officials must check the verified dropout checkbox for these students.
I think according to what Ken said earlier yesterday is, though, that they will not be counted as official dropouts, but you must check that verification, and we'll go over that.
Absolutely. So what Sue Ann is saying and interpreting that is these students, although they will be checked, that there is a tracking process here. And so these students they will count, yes, but they will not be a part of your dropout calculation for the year, or the percentage that is reported for the schools and districts across.
And I'm sure Ken will update his documentation and have all that ready for you by the next dropout reporting process.
Is a school or district required to implement or use the W2T process? No, they're not. Schools and districts are not required to participate in the W2T process. You may just code your students as W2s and continue as you have before without any additional conversation. So those are the questions that we, the planning team who worked on this, came up with that you might be interested in. And at this time, we'll turn it over to Shannon and Sue Ann.
Okay. Well, I have some questions here. Is there a list of all adult education programs in the state somewhere they can find them?
Well, this is how that works. It's a little differently than public schools. So the community college state office would have a list. However, these programs operate on an enrollment basis. So there although a community college may have a program, if they don't have any students in the program, they don't offer it. So it just depends on if they have students that are actually enrolled in the program. Now, every community college does not have an adult high school program, but the list should be at the community college state office.
Is there or will there be a specific place to document the post-dropout conference in Power School?
Not at this time, no. The exit conference is what they're speaking of.
So going back to the question about having the conversation with the between the LEA or schools and the community colleges, if that conversation's already had and the data is not being released due to a privacy concern, is there something formal from DPI that can cover that they require that information?
We'll check with our legal staff on that. And if you guys will make sure I get that question, I'll follow up.
Forward all of them to you.
Can a second community college be added with a separate agreement?
All righty, so we have had that conversation with the community college office, and as I mentioned, this is the adult high school program was not initially designed for 16 and 17-year-olds. And so the community college office and the Department of Public Instruction have agreed that a district may have an affiliation agreement with only one community college, and that should be the community college that is serving their county or region. As I mentioned, there's not a community college in every county in the state, but they do have service regions. So your affiliation should be with the community college in your region.
And this is just for adult high school programs, not GED, right?
Absolutely. Adult high school programs only. Students that leave school, they take a GED or the Adult Basic Education Program, which is changing, by the way. Those students will continue to be coded as W2. Only adult high school programs, because the adult high school program is most closely aligned with the content and curriculum of the traditional high school. So only those students will be allowed to be coded as W2T students, adult high school students.
So what kind, once a student is moved or changed from W2T to a W6, is there an audit trail that we have in PowerSchool that the student was ever coded W2T?
From my conversations with our PowerSchool people yesterday, I'm looking at my colleagues like, why am I answering this question? But based on this our conversation, there is a code. The W2T code does not go away. It stays in the tracking system so that we know which students were ever coded as W2T.
And I will go over 5 scenarios in just a few minutes of how you put that in PowerSchool and how it's tracked there or how it stays there.
Okay, who at the LEA level is responsible for monitoring? Is there someone specific, position title, or does the LEA assign a responsible person?
The LEA will assign an individual for this process.
Does SACS accredited online adult high school programs such as National High School qualify for a W2T status?
Only adult high school programs for community colleges in North Carolina.
You keep referring to transitioning between W2T and W2 or W2 to W2T. Is there a QRD on how to enter this in PowerSchool? Joanne's going to go over this, how it is entered in PowerSchool in just a moment. So yeah. And yes, we will try to slow down. We apologize.
Sorry.
This webinar will be posted so that you can re-listen to it if you need to.
I thought I'd slow down a bit. I'll slow down more, but Joanne's getting ready to talk.
Who will issue diplomas and transcripts?
The diplomas are signed off by the local district and the community college traditionally, unless there is a different type of agreement between the district and the community college. But typically, or historically I should say, that diploma has been signed off by the community college and the local district.
And the transcript, the student can only get the transcript from the school with the courses they took at their high school. Then they're going to have to request a transcript from the community college to show the rest of the courses.
If we have students this school year, that are enrolled in adult high school programs, can we go back and code them W2T for this school year?
This begins
14, 15?
No, 15, 16.
15, 16, yes.
Yes.
I will go over that scenario in just a couple minutes.
Does it cost students to attend these programs?
It very well may. That depends on the community college. Of course, there's a tab that locals can pick up if they'd like. We know you have lots. Maybe quiet over here. Really get us in trouble.
So we're still having this conversation about more than one community college, and this one is there are several in the area. Can we use more than one?
You may not.
There is one that is associated with the high school and not.
That is an agreement between the leadership of our agency and the leadership of the community college. This was not an easy collaboration, and it took lots of conversation, primarily because community colleges are not equipped to handle the potential of numbers that may be coming their way. So as a result, one of the stipulations is that the districts only be allowed to have an affiliation with one community college.
They would have to ask the people in their district which college that it is affiliated with.
Absolutely. The community college that is in your service region.
The W2T exit code and process only applies to 1 through 16 through 17-year-old dropouts and not dropouts ages 18 and older.
So based on what I'm thinking at this point, an 18-year-old could still be in high school and could be continuing on to a 5th year to graduate. So as long as that student is leaving the traditional high school and going into the community college, then yes, that student may be coded as W2T.
Can you please repeat what you mean by the 5-year cohort graduation year?
Okay, these are the students who we calculate the 4-year graduation cohort for those students who complete it in 4 years, but then we calculate a 5-year for those students who complete the cohort in 5 years. So we do the 4-year, and then we also do the 5-year that includes that 5th year of graduation for that student.
And those years will be based on that 9th grade entry date.
Correct. Thank you. We say it so much.
Say it so much. We do. We say it so much. It's just like we forget to say it.
So we can only track students who enroll in the community college in our county that we have the agreement with. That is correct. Even though students will enroll in other community colleges in neighboring counties.
Repeat that last part.
So they may be going to another county to attend a community college, but this particular county can only track the ones that are affiliated with them.
That is correct.
Okay, let's hold off on questions and let me do a little bit of demonstration here on how you're going to enter this information into PowerSchool. I have 5 scenarios for you. It's really very simple. We will post a QRD shortly and send that out, but it's not posted at this point. We want to go through this webinar first. And your first scenario is going to be a student in the current year who is dropping out. Now, we want to make sure that it's only students, in this case, only students who are verified in an adult program and that you have not withdrawn at this time. So what you want to do is the child comes in with the verification, you want to go ahead and withdraw them. So you're going to search for your student, and excuse our training database, it is slower than molasses, as my grandmother would say. So it takes it a while. Once you've got your student located, as we spin for a while, you're going to go to the enrollment. Now you're going to withdraw this student with the process that's in the withdrawal QRD documentation that's on the NCSIS website, except you're going to be using a new code that was put into production last night. So you're going to scroll down under enrollments, you're going to click on functions, and it will eventually go there. I am so sorry we are slow this morning. I know you saw some information with Greg, and that's what we were working on. You're going to click on transfer out of school. Now, because you have not withdrawn this student at this point, they have shown you the verification before you've withdrawn them. You're going to put in a transfer date, and we're just going to use today's date because this is when they're leaving. Your withdrawal code is going to be the W2T Adult Community High School, Adult College, Community College Adult High School Program, CCAHS. Oh. Remember, do not check this enrollment box here, and you're going to submit. This student is now withdrawn from school. This is scenario 1. It's a student who has not dropped out at this point. You get the information before you ever withdraw them from school. Case 1 handled. Fairly simple. Your W2T tracking is now in your transfer information and will remain there. Let's let this little baby go ahead and get transferred out. Now we do realize that this information is set for the 15-16 school year. The next scenario I'm going to talk about is a student who left during the previous school year. The W2T exit code cannot be used, again remember, before the 15-16 school year. But students have 1 calendar year from the leaving school to verify the enrollment. Okay? So we're going to wait just a few minutes until this decides it's going to move on here. Do we have any questions about that first one? Okay. Let's go ahead and ask a couple questions while this processes.
Our local community college doesn't have a program. Can we use the next closest one?
I'm thinking. That's something we'll have to get clarification on from our leadership. However, my thinking is that there is not one in your county or the one that's in your region, then that would certainly be a possibility for sure. Is my thinking. However, it might be too that you might want to ask your community college to develop one. Because it'll be easier for you to track your students if they're closer to you, is my thinking. And Faye is nodding her head, so since Faye is nodding her head, that is the right answer.
How will students that are coded as W2T be affected by the driver's license legislation? Will their license be revoked?
I can't answer that question. That's a Ken question. So
Listening, so we'll.
He's got technical problems. He can't talk, so.
Here, but he can't talk.
Yeah.
So he sent me an email.
Okay, we're still, as you can see now, this student that we just had is transferred out of school. So that was the student that we had before you had dropped them out. You got the information as they were leaving. They provided you with the verification. Okay, got another one while this goes back to the start page. I am so sorry this is taking so long.
Did you withdraw the student before you did the transfer out on student situation number 1?
No, the transfer out is the withdrawal of a W2T because I had the information in hand as I was withdrawing the student.
We can start using this for 15-16 school. I thought the start date was 16-17. And use it for 15-16.
Now, once this student has gotten its W2T, as it slowly adjusts here, we're going to want to go ahead to the transfer info page for this student. And I know this is a little bit different than we've ever done before because you do not verify your W2s usually until the following year. We are going to verify this W2T student as a verified dropout. So on this student's transfer info page, if we can ever get there, we are going to click, if you see here, we have the W2T. We are going to click on this information that we just created. Now someone to fix our training database once we get done here. We are going to scroll to the bottom, and your dropout reason for this student is going to be this community college adult high school. And we are going to go ahead and verify that student as a dropout. Now, according to Ken, the rate is adjusted by each W2T that is reported. So both the rate and the number go hand in hand. So we want to make sure that you understand that.
Going back to who is affiliated, can you comment on Acceleration Academy? Are their students eligible for W2T status?
I don't know the answer to the question. I understand that the acceleration, there is an acceleration program that some schools are using, but I don't know anything about it in relation to this. We will have to look into that for you.
If a student were to leave a community college and one that is affiliated with this district and move to another community college in another district, does that mean that the second community college school can count the student towards their graduation cohort rate? Since that is affiliated, since the first district is affiliated with a separate community college.
Okay. So, just to be perfectly clear, I do have the answer to this one, but Shannon, would you repeat that question? Because it's
So since an LEA may only affiliate with one community college, if a student leaves community college A and enrolls at community college B, does that mean that community college B, that their school district, can count that student towards their graduation cohort rate? Since the A school is affiliated with a different college.
So the student, I have to say that this scenario was one we did not discuss. However, the student can only be counted in the District B if that student has been enrolled in District B. Okay, so go ahead.
I'll say I'm agreeing. That's correct, because it depends on where the student actually is enrolled, not in the community college, but in the district itself. And that's where they would count, in that school, in that district.
Angela?
Yes, I just want to indicate that a student can only be counted in one place. Okay. You can't have a student in one area.
You can't have a student graduating from 2 LEAs, is what you're saying.
One place.
What is the reason for verifying as a dropout now?
That's a Ken question.
Just one of the processes that he wants to make sure gets completed, because I know during the summer sometimes you might forget to verify those, and since they're not going to count and we already know it's going to be verified as a dropout, just go ahead and do it. And it's not one of those that you really need to check on to make sure it's a dropout.
It's really a timing thing, for more convenience, and that way we make sure that they get on the list as they should.
It wasn't a Ken question. That was a Sue Ann and Betsy. Angela question.
Every once in a while, we get it. I am sorry this is taking so long.
If an LEA does not use the W2T process, but keeps track of those dropouts who do complete an adult high school program through affiliation with the community college, can the LEA code a W2 dropout as W6 if the LEA has documentation the student graduated the adult high school program within the 4 or 5 year cohort?
The answer is no, because when you give that student a W2, it's going to count towards your dropout rate, and we won't have anything to change that, because once Ken takes his snapshot of the dropout rate, that's it. He cannot go back and change it.
Okay, we're making progress here on this screen. You guys know this is what training deals with all the time here. Got any more questions?
No jokes, Michelle, between?
No, I have no jokes. I could say a few things, but I'm not sure that'd be appropriate now.
So this is a little question. So occasionally we have students who are in our schools from outside our LEA that are there illegally. If these students W2 from our schools and go to their local community colleges, then we cannot W2T them. Is that correct? In this context, Edmund, I need some more information about what you mean for illegally in our schools.
I thought we had to take everything.
The dropout rate, and this may be a Ken question too, the dropout rate is only calculated based on the number of verified dropouts, not the number of W-2s. So actually you could have some W-1s that are counted as a dropout. Is that possible?
Not my knowledge.
No knowledge either. Okay. Huh? No, I'm wired. It's just this training database has got some issues that it's got reports running, and they didn't realize it until we started, and they couldn't stop the whole process at this point. So he says there's some big reports running in the background that need to be canceled. So we're not sure where that's coming from, but no, I'm not wireless. I'm wired. So let me go ahead and just state the second scenario. So you have a student who left during a previous school year. Keep in mind that the W2T exit code cannot be used before this school year, the 15-16 school year. Students have 1 calendar year in order to verify this. So you're going to search for that student who was withdrawn as a W-2 in a previous year, and you're going to select them. Now keep in mind you're going to search with the / in front of the name. You are going to re-enroll that student into school. I don't think any of these students are withdrawn at this point. But you're going to pick your student with the / in front of their name. You're going to go over under enrollment, and you're going to re-enroll that student into school. When you re-enroll that student into school, make sure you denote the enrollment date, because the enrollment date and the withdrawal date are going to be exactly the same. The student is going to look like a no-show for your school. If the student was withdrawn in a previous year, the enrollment code for that student is going to be an E1 because it's their first enrollment in school this year. But remember, the enrollment date and the withdrawal date are exactly the same, so it's going to be a no-show. The re-enrollment will ask you if you want to restore class enrollment, and you're going to say no. You're going to complete all fields on that re-enrollment tab and click Submit. Once that student is re-enrolled, you're going to go down to the Functions button under Enrollments, and you're going to immediately transfer that student out of school. Okay? When you transfer the student out of school this time, because he was a previous W-2, you're going to use a W2T, that community college code. Click your Submit button. Again, you're going to navigate to the Transfer Info screen immediately, and you're going to check that student as a verified dropout, and you're going to set that community college adult high school program as the transfer or the dropout reason. Any questions on that one? Let me see if I can. Let's just transfer the student out of school. Let's just do this quickly. If it will let us. I'm not sure it's going to let us do anything quickly. We're going to pretend that this student was withdrawn in 2014. It's not going to let me. Okay. Any questions on that one as we proceed?
I had a comment that said, Sue Ann, wired? That's crazy.
I
might
am
do a little because of the slowness of our training site right now.
my computer is wired. I may be a little wired too. I've had 2 cups of coffee, so we'll go from there. But keep in mind, that's the process. What I will try to do is I will try to do just a quick webinar once we finish this process, once we get our training database set up, and go through these 5 scenarios for you so that it can be posted as well, so that you'll be able to see them. Okay? Our third scenario is a student who fails to complete the Community College Adult High School Program by June 30th of their 5th year cohort graduation year. Okay, so keep in mind, this is the 9th grade entry date plus 5 years. Okay, you're going to search for that student again using the / in front of their name because those students are withdrawn. You're going to select that student from the matching results, and you're going to re-enroll that student in school. Under Functions, Re-enroll. Again, the entry date and the exit date are going to be the same because it's going to be a no-show, but your entry code for this student is now an R2. Okay? Restore class enrollment, you're going to say no. Ensure that all the rest of the fields on that re-enrollment page are completed. Click Submit. Immediately, again, you're going to go to the Transfer Out of School page. The exit code for this student is going to be a W2. It's an early leaver. The student did not complete the program. So if you remember in the policy when Deborah and Faye were talking, the code for a student who did not complete is now a dropout, a W2. You're going to navigate immediately to the student transfer page. You're going to select the appropriate dropout reason. It's no longer the community college reason. It's a reason code that you selected. Verify the dropout box to ensure that all the fields are completed and click Submit. So that's the process for a student who did not complete their information within their 5 years.
Does the student that left last year that you enroll as a no-show this year need to be recorded in our manual admit withdrawal logs for this year?
I don't quite understand the question.
Aaron, what do you mean? Which part?
That's the whole thing again.
Does the student that left last year and we W2'd last year and you enroll this year as a no-show need to be recorded in our manual admit withdrawal logs for this year?
I'm not sure what manual he means, what manual means either. I mean, I don't know what he's asking.
We keep manual admit withdrawal logs for our school. Do we need to enter that?
That's a local decision. That's totally up to you.
So when you might make the point that there are no shows, so they don't affect any PMR. That's the point of having the starting.
Okay, so Betsy wanted me to remind you that when you no-show these people, or these students people, they don't affect your PMR. They're a no-show. Your entry and withdrawal date are exactly the same, and that's why we keep stressing that. They're not going to affect any PMR. They're not going to affect any SAR. They're not going to affect anything within your school. That's why you have to be very diligent about making that re-enrollment date and that transfer out date exactly the same.
So for your scenario 2, the admit withdrawal date, can it be outside the school year, or does it need to be within the school year that you were doing that?
I would say it needs to be inside the school year, because that's going to be the time they're going to provide you the documentation whether they're going to be enrolled or not.
Putting it outside the school year makes it at risk for being not considered for certain reports.
Which dates should be used for no-shows on scenario 2?
Student who left during the previous school year and has provided you that information, If they've provided you that information on the first day of school, that's fine. I would use the date that the student provides you the information. So let's say the student comes back in September and has that information. I would use the date that the student handed you or that's dated on that information.
If you have a W2T, then do a re-enrollment to bring them back in, then transfer it out again as a W2 because they aren't in the program. The re-enrollment is an R2.
Depending on when the information is done. Ozella addressed that. If it's a previous year, it's going to be an E1.
All re-entries have to happen within that school year after you received your initial code, whatever that may be.
Okay.
If the student does not finish the program, he will be counted as a dropout.
Exactly, and we're going to go into a student who fails to provide documentation of continuous enrollment in a high school program. Let me see if I can get this student to come up. We have little Joe here who has withdrawn from school this year. Maybe we have little Joe here. Keep in mind that written documentation has to be provided each quarter or semester that the student needs to be continuously enrolled. You're going to search for that student. Again, you're going to re-enroll that student in school. So I'm going to go down here to my academic information, my enrollment information. I'm going to go to functions, and I'm going to re-enroll that student in school. Now, for this particular student, your date of re-enrollment is the date that the student failed to return to the community college high school program. So you get documentation semester 2 of the school year that the student did not come back. You would use that date as his re-enrollment into school. Again, the exit date and the entry date are going to be the same. Your entry code, R2, if the re-enrollment is in the same school year, or E1 if the re-enrollment is in a new school year. Okay? So the entry code here I'm going to say is R2 for this student. He's a full-time student, 12th grade. Restore class enrollment, no. Okay? And it's going to continue to spin for a while. I am going to go immediately to the transfer out of school screen using the date of re-enrollment, and I am going to exit that student with a W2 code because he did not re-enroll or have continuous enrollment in that adult high school program. I will then go to his transfer screen, scroll to the bottom, verify that student as a dropout, and check the box. Give him a reason. So he's now been re-enrolled. Let's see how long it takes to get back to functions, if it's even going to go.
So they would be an E1 if it is they were withdrawn and it is a new school year. However, would they be an R5 or an R6 if they re-enrolled in the same school the same year, the same school year?
Ozella?
Give me the first part of that again. They're initially E1 in a current school year, okay? And they are in the same LEA or they've left the state?
No, they're re-enrolling in the same school year.
Re-enrolling. What was the code that they received after the E1?
It's W2.
They got a W2, and they're coming back in.
Yes.
Oh, they got the W2.
W2T. They did not have continuous enrollment.
Mm-hmm. My first thing is to say an R5, but that W2T is really kind of getting me right now.
There was a question why an R2 would they feel that it would have been an R6.
Let me research that one before I answer. I don't want to, with it being a W2T, just let me give the answer to Sue Ann and you, and you can post it.
And that was the question that I had to Lizanza before, is because an R2, a W2 was an R6, which do we want? So Azella will check on that. Right now, for purposes of this presentation, I'm going to go ahead and say an R2 or an R6 that Azella will find out, and we will let you know and correct the documentation for sure, okay? And our last scenario, this one is the one we would like to have happen more often than any of the others. This is a student who actually goes into the adult high school program and graduates within his 5-year cohort information. So again, you're going to search for the student with the / in front of their name. You're going to select that student, and you're going to re-enroll that student into school. The date of re-enrollment is the date the student completed the college high school adult program. The exit date is going to be exactly the same. Your entry code, depending on when it is, R2, R6, or an E1. You're going to restore class enrollments no. You're going to complete that screen and press submit. You will then immediately go to the transfer screen and transfer that student out of school with an exit code of W6. They have officially graduated. But you're not finished now, because now you need to navigate to that student academic screen, which is under the North Carolina information, and it's academics, and you need to complete that graduation academic page. Complete the fields of the 9th grade entry date, which should already be there, your diploma entered, diploma granted, diploma issued. The diploma type is required, and you want to use the wording Future Ready Core. That's the one you want to pick. You need to ensure that all other fields of data have been completed and click the Submit button. This student is now a graduate and counted in that cohort if he's within that 5 years of graduation. That graduation cohort, 5 years of his 9th grade entry date.
So with the community college, if they have their own guidelines for issuing a December certificate, would the students in those adult high school programs continue to use that process rather than coming to the local high school for that request? Say that again?
Yeah, ask it again.
So it says the community college has their own guidelines for issuing, I'm assuming it's December because of DEC certificates. I hope that students in adult high schools would continue to use that process, the community college guidelines for issuing those certificates, rather than coming to the high school for the request.
You're talking about when the graduation?
Yes.
Okay. I don't see why not. I think that's, yeah, that's fine.
If a student with a 9th grade entry date in 11-12 school year has been retained for a couple of years, now in 15-16 is dropping out, already past the 5th year cohort date, can they participate and be withdrawn with a W2T?
They're 18 years old? How old are they? Yes, they can. They school they're 21.
Right, so if they're repeating or have repeated a couple times, then they fall behind.
They fall behind. So students who are over age, this student is 18, correct? Student can stay in school, yes. So as a result, if that student is still in school and wishes to leave your school and go to a community college adult high school program and verifies enrollment, then yes, that student may be counted as a W2T. Or may be coded as W2T. Is that answering the question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Again, I will try to get this database fixed and do another just webinar by myself and walk through these processes so that you can see them and have that posted along with this.
Oh, I'm sorry. A D driver's eligibility certificate.
I think I would send Ken an email and ask him that question.
Yeah, reply and send his reply to Deborah. He'd like you to look into that. So you'll see it.
So we'll follow
We'll
up.
follow up.
Sorry about that.
You know, it's around Christmas time, so everybody's thinking DEC is December.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
way too many acronyms in this building. We will work on getting these scenarios defined in a QRD. That's one of our documentation goals.
Right. We need to find out whether it's an R2 or an R6 before we submit that to you, so that we make sure you have accurate information before you proceed.
If they re-enroll with us, say they don't continue with the adult high school program at the community college, but re-enroll with the school, can we count their credits from the community college?
LaDanza will check on that.
Yeah, I will check on that.
I think it would be what depending on what the credit is. I would think we'll check on that. Because it's not a record, that's one thing.
There's some concern that this may change the snapshot of, doesn't this change the snapshot of the dropout rate, this W2T?
In a good way.
In a good way.
It goes down. Situation goes up.
And it just provides options. The other thing, I don't know if can I comment?
You can comment. Go.
So one of the things that I've discovered in the role that I have now is, and you know, probably already knew this anyway, but GEDs are not considered are not equivalent to an adult high school or a high school diploma. And whereas an adult high school diploma is considered equivalent to the traditional high school diploma that a local district would administer. So, or what do you call it? Anyway, so we're thinking that this is a very positive step in the collaboration between the two agencies, the Community College Agency and the Department of Public Instruction, the State Board of Education. So we think this is a very, very good step. It's particularly in light that the adult high school curriculum is aligned with the traditional high school curriculum. Maybe not delivered the same way. Of course, the setting is very different, but the content is very much aligned.
It also helps with your graduation rate, your dropout rate, because that W2T adjusts that dropout rate and count for your school.
And the other thing I'd like for you to be particularly, and I in our planning conversations yesterday, I kept reiterating this point, is that not every student who has determined that they're going to drop out of school or has indicated that they may be considering dropping out of school is a candidate for adult high school programs. Just like any other program, the student has to be a good fit for the adult high school program, which has requires a lot of self-discipline. Now, there are 16 and 17-year-olds and even some 15-year-olds who are extremely disciplined. And for some of those students, the adult high school program is going to be a perfect fit, whereas the traditional high school very well may not be working for them for a multitude of reasons. So it then becomes our responsibility to counsel those students and help determine what program or which program is best for them.
Earlier, there was a discussion that if a student is 18 and still within their 5-year cohort, we can use the W2T. But in regards to the retained student who is past their 5-year cohort, they can still use the W2T. There's some
there needs some clarification. If they've passed their 5-year cohort, and we just said here, if they've passed it, they're a dropout in our scenario.
But they do have the ability to go to school up until 21.
They do?
Yes.
I think we're going to have to talk legal on that one.
Take them regardless. W2T, the count against the code.
So if they won't count in the 5 years, because that rate has already been calculated.
Right.
But why would they be counted as a W-2 if they're still enrolled? Because they haven't officially dropped out. I mean, I think we need to talk legal on that one.
Come back.
Graduation is one thing, but dropout, counting them as a dropout a second time is something. It's something
Especially
else.
if they're still in
Yes, especially if they're still in school.
I know that this Power School is running very slowly, but there was a question about how to find the diploma assessment report in top school.
I'm doubting very seriously that we'll be able to get there. So I will include that as part of the demonstration that I post in a little bit.
You can go to reports, and you go under NC
DPI report.
and it's there. It's diploma assessment report, or DAR, DAR, and that's where you will find it.
So that's under your state reporting or system reporting tab, under reports, the NC DPI reports tab. And if I can get back there,
Is that the student level? You select your students, is that the idea?
no, you don't have to have a student selected.
Right.
You
It'll
just run
for
it.
your school.
Yeah.
Seems like we're getting an error when we run the at-risk report. The status produced is an error. There's something special that needs to happen to make the report work.
If you are getting an error, I would log a ticket to the service desk because there may be an issue with that report. We've not heard of anything at this point, but could very well be.
It is true that you need to read the QRD for how to run it because it requires very specific parameters.
Specific parameters, there is a QRD out there.
I hope so. It's a built-in Pearson report,
Okay.
so I know that there's some Pearson information on it.
As Betsy said, it's a built-in Pearson report, so there is power source information on that report. You do have access. I will check and see if we have any documentation on the NCSIS website on that report at all. At this point, Shannon says no, we do not. So there's specific ways that you have to run that report.
There is a SQL 4 report that emulates some of that information as well that in the report we just mentioned.
The NCDPI reports,
No, it's under SQL report 4.
Right.
that tab.
Right.
The diploma
And
report.
it emulates some of the at-risk reports.
Okay.
So you have that option as well.
Betsy's team has developed a report in the SQL4 reports tab under system or state reports that emulates a lot of the information that's in the at-risk report that is a core product from Pearson. The SQL4 report is a North Carolina-based report that Betsy's team has written.
Just another at-risk report question. It asks for a letter grade value, but grades, will it accept numeric?
I don't remember for sure, but definitely check out the SQL 4 because that's one reason we created the SQL 4 reports, because of some of the limitations of the Pearson report.
And they are stating that the SQL report doesn't work.
Then they need to open a ticket. Okay.
please, anytime you find something that is not working, log a ticket. Can't fix it if we don't have a ticket. Tickets like that will go to Betsy's team, and they will work on those reports that they've written to make sure they're working correctly for you. Okay, it is 11:26. As I sit here and spin a little while longer. 10:26. I must be hungry. So 2 cups of coffee are starting to kick in. We're going to go ahead and call this for today. If you've got questions, please go ahead and email them to Deborah or myself. We will post this information, but we will not post the QRD until we get accurate information from Ozella about the withdrawal, the reentry code of an R2 or an R6 or an R5. She will let us know what that is. Keep in mind that the information is in your production sites at this time. You may want to hold off doing anything with it until we get you the proper information that you need in order to do this correctly. Because we don't want you to have to go back and fix things that we told you how to do wrong. So if there are no other questions, we will log these questions that you have, send them to the appropriate people. It probably will not be posted today. It will take some people a while to get the information because they do have to talk to legal about a few of the questions. So we will get them back to you just as soon as we can. Thank you for being here and participating and for the great questions that you've asked. And thank everyone else for being in the room and helping us with this webinar.
Thank you, everyone.
For the cohort.